She thought she was getting into a rideshare. He thought he was giving a stranger a quiet favor. Neither of them expected their past to collide in the front seat of a luxury car, where one single mistake would unlock a secret neither of them were ready for. A child, a memory, and a love that never really left. The rain had soaked through Elena's canvas shoes by the time she reached the curb. Her shift at the diner had run an hour late. Her phone battery was flashing red, and she hadn't eaten since Leo's half-eaten sandwich that morning. Every part of her body ached, not just from the physical toll, but from the weight of constantly holding everything together for her 3-year-old son. She glanced at the street, blinking water out of her eyes. A sleek black sedan pulled up right where the app showed her ride would be. The driver didn't wave or say her name. He just looked up from his phone, then back down, as if to signal she was expected. Elena didn't think twice. She opened the door, slid into the passenger seat, and exhaled. "Sorry," she murmured, pulling off her dripping hood. "It's a nightmare out there." The man behind the wheel didn't respond immediately. He had a calm, unreadable face, sharp jaw, clean-shaven, dark eyes focused straight ahead. His navy coat looked expensive. Everything about the car screamed money. It had the faint smell of leather and something clean, like bergamot. They drove in silence for a minute. No app voice, no GPS. That was the first red flag. She looked at the dash. No Uber screen, no driver ID, no phone mounted. Her stomach tightened. Are you with Uber?" He turned to look at her then, just for a second. And in that second, something in her shifted. "No," he said simply, "but you look like you needed a ride." Elena froze. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I thought—" She reached for the door handle. "It's all right," he said calmly, eyes still on the road. "I'm not going to hurt you. Where are you headed?" She hesitated, still half ready to jump out, but the rain outside had only gotten worse. Her phone blinked, 1% battery, and something about his tone wasn't threatening. It was matter-of-fact, measured. Like he didn't care whether she stayed or left, but if she stayed, he'd make sure she got home. "26th and Archer," she said, voice low. He nodded once and turned the car smoothly in that direction. She kept glancing at him sideways. Something was familiar. Not his face exactly, but his posture, the way he gripped the wheel, the way he didn't fill silence with pointless chatter. The car was silent but for the rain against the windows. When he stopped at a red light, she gathered the nerve to speak. "You didn't have to pick me up, you know." He shrugged. "You looked like someone who needed a moment to disappear." Elena didn't reply, because he wasn't wrong. They pulled up outside her building 15 minutes later. She fumbled for the handle. "Thank you," she said, hesitating. "Really?" He turned to her, this time meeting her eyes fully. There was a flicker of something. Recognition? Memory? She couldn't place it. He handed her a business card, blank except for a number and a single letter. "A? Next time," he said, "check the plates." And then he drove off, disappearing into the rain like a question she hadn't learned how to ask yet. Elena stood in the stairwell for several seconds, gripping the simple white card between her damp fingers. The ink had slightly smudged from the rain, but the number was still clear. No company name, no full name, just a single letter. A. Her fingers were trembling slightly, not from fear but confusion and something else. Restlessness. She stuffed the card into her jacket pocket and climbed the 3 flights to the small studio apartment she shared with Leo. Inside, the lights were dim. Leo was already asleep, curled up on their second-hand sofa with his stuffed dinosaur tucked under his chin. Mrs. Hargrove, the retired neighbor who watched him some evenings, gave Elena a kind nod. "He was good tonight," she whispered, slipping on her coat. "Didn't even ask where you were." Elena smiled wearily and handed her a few crumpled bills. Barely enough, but it was all she had until Friday. After the older woman left, Elena stood for a moment in the quiet. The sound of the rain still pattered against the window. Her reflection in the glass looked older than she remembered, darker under the eyes, thinner in the cheeks. She changed into dry clothes and tiptoed into the kitchenette to warm up some leftover soup. She sat in silence, sipping slowly, the memory of the man and the ride replaying in her head over and over. His voice, the car, the way he said she looked like someone who needed to disappear. She pulled the card from her pocket and laid it on the counter. Who was he? Her curiosity got the best of her. She typed the number into her phone and saved it as Stranger A. Then impulsively, she sent a text. Thanks for the ride, and for not freaking out when I stole your car. E. She didn't expect a reply. In fact, she didn't expect anything at all. So when the three little dots appeared, those blinking dots of someone typing, her heart jumped. Didn't look like theft, looked like survival. She stared at the screen, unsure how to respond. Then another message came in. You okay? Something in that simple question made her throat tighten. When was the last time someone had asked her that and meant it? She typed, yeah, long day, life. A minute passed. Let me know if you need another wrong car sometime. A small smile tugged at the edge of her mouth. She didn't reply this time. She powered off the phone, set it down, and sat beside Leo on the couch. Her fingers brushed the boy's hair gently. She whispered more to herself than to him, who are you, eh? Because deep down she knew this wasn't just a moment. It was the beginning of something else. Something she wasn't sure she was ready for, but couldn't look away from. 3 days passed before she heard from him again. Elena didn't realize she was checking her phone more often until she caught herself doing it in the middle of pouring coffee at the diner. She cursed under her breath, wiped a small spill, and forced herself to focus. Stranger A had remained silent since their brief exchange. It had been polite, oddly warm, but still distant. That morning had started rough. Leo had a slight fever. She left him with Mrs. Hargrove again and walked to the diner with soaked sneakers and a persistent headache. Her manager had chewed her out for being 5 minutes late. The tips were low, and the cook kept mixing up the orders, which meant she had to deal with 2 angry customers before noon. By the time her shift ended, her nerves were stretched thin. She walked home slowly, through cold air and slushy sidewalks. Halfway there, her phone buzzed. Unknown number, not saved, but she knew. It was him. Are you free tonight? She stopped in the middle of the sidewalk. Her heart knocked once, hard. Depends on who's asking, she typed back. 3 dots blinked. Then, the guy you accidentally kidnapped. Elena laughed out loud. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, a man passing by looked at her strangely, but she didn't care. And what exactly are you offering? This time the reply came quicker. A meal that doesn't come in a paper bag. And no expectations. Just dinner. Just talking. She hesitated. She hadn't gone out in, well, years. Since Leo's father vanished, since she became a mother, since her life narrowed into a tunnel of work, worry, and survival. But she remembered A's voice. Not just what he said, but how he said it. Steady, clean, unbothered. She texted, one condition. You tell me who you really are. This time, no response, not right away. She kept walking, heart racing, unsure if she'd overstepped. But just as she reached her building, her phone buzzed again. A photo. It was a simple headshot. Him, slightly more relaxed than she remembered, eyes softer, in a gray sweater instead of a coat. Below it, a message. Adam Rayner, 34, architect, former screw-up, current, working on it. Elena stared at the name. It tickled something in the back of her memory. High school, maybe? No, he would have been older. Still, it sounded familiar. She typed slowly, pick me up at 7. And don't bring the fancy car. His reply, I'll bring the wrong one this time. She didn't know why she smiled so much as she climbed the stairs. She didn't know what this was becoming, but she knew something had shifted. And part of her, maybe the part that had been asleep for too long, didn't want to stop it. Elena stood in front of her closet for 10 full minutes, staring blankly at the same 2 or 3 outfits she always rotated between. Cheap jeans, a stretched out cardigan, a plain navy blouse. Nothing about them screamed dinner with a man who drives a car worth more than my yearly income. She wasn't dressing to impress him. At least that's what she told herself. But a part of her, one she usually shoved down beneath layers of exhaustion and practical thinking, wanted to feel seen, like a woman again. Not just a mother or a waitress or someone constantly figuring out how to pay for diapers and rent in the same week. She chose the blouse, the navy one. It made her eyes look more awake. She added a little mascara and lip balm, then paused to look at herself in the mirror. Still her, still tired, still too thin. But the flicker in her eyes, curiosity, maybe hope, That was new. Mrs. Hargrove arrived to watch Leo just before 7 a.m. Elena kissed her son goodnight, trying not to linger, not to overthink what she was doing. The rain had stopped, but the pavement was still wet and glistening under the streetlights. When she stepped outside, a gray SUV pulled up to the curb. Modest, clean, no drama. Adam got out of the driver's seat before she reached the car. He wore a dark wool coat over a charcoal sweater and jeans. Nothing flashy. His hair was slightly tousled from the breeze, and when he saw her, something in his face softened. "You clean up well," he said, smiling gently. She raised an eyebrow. "This is as fancy as I get." "Good," he said. "Anything more and I might have to get nervous." They drove in companionable silence for a few minutes, the kind that felt oddly comfortable, like the quiet between two people who didn't need to prove anything just yet. She expected some high-end restaurant downtown, maybe a trendy spot with impossible reservations. Instead, they pulled up to a quiet diner on the edge of town. Elena looked at him, surprised. "You're taking me to a place with plastic menus?" He nodded. "They make the best chicken pot pie in 3 counties. And they don't rush you." Inside, the diner was nearly empty. A few older couples, 2 truckers in a corner booth. A waitress with red hair and tired eyes brought them water without asking. Adam seemed to know her. Elena studied him across the table. The dim light caught his features differently than before. He had those quiet eyes, the kind that carried weight without trying to impress. He looked like a man who had seen things, lost things. "So," she said, stirring her straw. "Adam Rayner, architect, former screw-up. What's that mean?" He leaned back, stretching his arms slightly. "It means I spent a lot of time chasing the wrong things, built big things, beautiful things, but couldn't hold together the parts of life that mattered." "Like what?" she asked. He didn't answer right away. "My brother, Jason. He died a year and a half ago. Car crash. I was too late to fix things between us." "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "Yeah." He looked down at the table. "So am I." They fell into silence again. Not heavy, just thoughtful. Elena sipped her water. "You said something when we first met, that I looked like someone who needed to disappear." "I remember. Why'd you say that?" He looked at her then, really looked. "Because I recognized it. I know what it's like to sit in a storm and pretend you're not drowning." The words hit her harder than expected. She looked away, swallowing. "Is this what this is, then?" she said. "Two people pretending they're fine?" He smiled, slow and a little sad. "No, I think this is two people who stopped pretending for one night." Their food arrived, and they ate without much small talk. She hadn't realized how hungry she was. The pot pie was, in fact, amazing. After dinner, they stepped out into the cool night. He walked her to the car but didn't open the door right away. "I know this isn't simple for you," he said. "I know there's a kid involved. I'm not trying to swoop in and fix anything. I just liked sitting across from you tonight." Elena nodded. "Me too." He opened the door for her, then paused. "You know, I was trying to remember where I'd seen you before. Your face. It's been bothering me." She blinked. "Have we met?" He hesitated, then shook his head. "Maybe in another life." She laughed softly. "That's cheating. That's not an answer." "I'll think on it," he said. "Next dinner." "You're assuming there'll be a next one?" He gave her a look, just a flicker of a grin, quiet and sure. "I'm hoping." And for the first time in a very long time, so was she. Elena woke the next morning with an unfamiliar lightness in her chest. It wasn't quite happiness, more like the memory of it, like something she used to feel before the weight of real life set in. As she made pancakes for Leo, her mind kept drifting back to the night before. The way Adam looked at her without judgment, the sound of his voice in the quiet diner, the things he said, the things he didn't. She caught herself smiling over the frying pan. Leo noticed. "Why you smiling, Mama?" he asked, holding his dinosaur by one leg. She flipped a pancake and winked at him. "Because someone made me feel seen." Leo blinked. "Was it the dinosaur?" She laughed. "No, but close." Later that day, while Leo napped, her phone buzzed. A message from Adam. "Still thinking about that pie? Still thinking about you." She stared at the screen a moment too long, then typed back. Both were surprisingly good. One might have been better than the other. The next few days fell into a strange rhythm. They didn't see each other, but they talked, texted mostly, sometimes called late at night. Their conversations drifted between light and deep, laughter and silence. She told him about the time she got fired from her first job for refusing to sell expired milk. He told her about a design pitch he tanked in front of a Japanese billionaire because he mispronounced the word bridge and accidentally said toilet. By the end of the week, she was craving his presence in a way that unsettled her. Then something changed. It was Saturday afternoon. Leo was at the park with Mrs. Hargrove, and Elena had just sat down on the couch with laundry in her lap when her phone rang. It was Adam. Not texting, calling. She answered. "Hey," she said, her voice caught between surprise and warmth. "Are you home?" he asked, but his voice wasn't playful. It was tighter than usual, clipped. "Yes. Why? Is everything okay?" "I need to talk to you," he said. "In person." "Now?" Her heart skipped. "Okay. I'll be there in 10. He hung up before she could ask anything more. 10 minutes later, his SUV pulled up to the curb. She opened the door before he knocked. Adam stood there with a strange look on his face, like he was holding something back. He didn't greet her. He just handed her an envelope, a thick one. "What is this?" she asked. "Open it." Inside was a photo, grainy, slightly out of focus. It was a picture of her and Leo at the corner market 2 days ago. She remembered that day, the tantrum Leo threw over a chocolate bar, the way she'd crouched beside him to calm him down. Someone had taken a picture from across the street. Elena looked up, throat dry. "What is this, Adam?" He ran a hand through his hair. "I got it anonymously this morning, delivered to my office. With this." He pulled out a second paper, typed, clean, no signature. "Tell her the truth, or we will." Elena's legs gave slightly and she sat on the edge of the sofa. Her hands were shaking. "Who sent this?" she whispered. "I don't know," he said, "but someone's watching you. Us." She looked at the photo again. "Why? What truth?" Adam stared at her for a long time. Then he sat down across from her and said quietly, "I think I know who Leo's father is." The air left the room. Elena's heart began to pound. "What did you just say?" Adam leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Your son. He looks like someone I knew. Someone I lost. My younger brother." She blinked hard, trying to process. "You think? Jason?" He nodded slowly. "I didn't know he was seeing anyone. But the timeline fits, and the resemblance is too strong to ignore." She shook her head, mouth dry. "Jason didn't give me his last name. He just vanished. He was kind to me, but it felt like he was hiding." Adam's voice was soft. He probably was. They sat there in stunned silence, both trying to grasp what had just been laid in front of them. Finally, Elena whispered, "What do we do?" Adam met her eyes. "We protect him. Whatever this is, whoever sent that letter, they want something. We'll find out what it is. But first, we keep Leo safe." She nodded slowly, though her mind raced. She looked at the picture again, her hand tightening around it. For the first time in a long time, her past was no longer just behind her. It had found its way back, through a child, a man, and a stranger's photograph. Elena barely slept that night. Every sound from the hallway made her heart jolt. Every creak of the apartment walls felt like a warning. She moved Leo into her bed and lay curled around him, one hand resting gently over his back, as if her fingers alone could protect him. The envelope sat on the kitchen counter, untouched since Adam left. She couldn't bring herself to look at it again. She didn't need to. The image was already burned into her mind. The photo, the note, the fear in Adam's voice when he said the words, "We protect him." By morning, she hadn't eaten, but she drank 2 cups of instant coffee with trembling hands. Leo woke up cranky and feverish, rubbing his eyes and asking for cartoons. She turned the volume down low and sat beside him, stroking his hair, her mind spiraling. At 8:37 a.m., Adam texted, "I found something. Are you free in an hour?" "Come here," she typed. "Bring coffee and answers." When he arrived, he looked like he hadn't slept either. He handed her a paper bag with 2 coffees and a cinnamon muffin. She took it silently and set it on the table. His eyes shifted to Leo, curled up under a blanket, watching a cartoon with glassy eyes and flushed cheeks. "He doesn't look good," Adam murmured. "He's fighting something. I'll call the pediatrician if it gets worse." Adam nodded. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a folder, a thick one. I asked my lawyer to dig into Jason's life before the crash, he said. Private, but discreetly. There's no birth record for a child in his name. No mention of any girlfriend. Nothing. It's like he wanted to disappear. Elena's fingers gripped her coffee tighter. That fits. He told me his name was Jay, said he didn't want drama. He never stayed the night. I was stupid and young and— Don't, Adam said gently. Don't blame yourself for trusting someone who made you feel seen. She nodded, tears pressing behind her eyes but not falling. Not yet. I found one more thing, Adam said. It might be nothing, but someone else is asking questions. About you. Elena froze. Who? He hesitated. My father's attorney. I saw an internal memo. Someone on the board of our family foundation hired a private investigator 2 weeks ago. Your name came up. And Leo's. Her breath caught. Why would they? Because if Leo is Jason's son, he could be entitled to a portion of the family trust. Millions. And there are people who don't want that. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I don't care about money. I barely care about the name. I just want to be left alone. I know, Adam said quietly, but they won't leave you alone now. Silence fell over them. Leo coughed, and both of them turned toward him at once. Instinctive. Protective. Adam stood, walked over, and knelt beside the couch. Hey, buddy, he said softly. You feeling yucky? Leo nodded and pulled the blanket tighter. Adam smiled, brushing hair off his forehead. You're tough. Just like your mom. Elena watched the moment unfold with something caught between awe and fear in her chest. Adam didn't know Leo long, but the way he looked at him, it wasn't casual, it wasn't temporary. It was like watching someone step into a role they didn't know they were meant for. Do you believe it? She asked suddenly. That he's Jason's? Adam stood, meeting her eyes. I don't need a test to believe it, but I'm going to get one anyway. Her heart thudded. I want to know for sure, he said. Not for me. For him. If he has a right to something, I'll fight to give it to him. But I also want to know what I already feel, that he's blood. And if he is, I want to be in his life, as more than a shadow. Elena didn't speak. She couldn't. Something had cracked open inside her, a door she never dared to even look at. Finally, she whispered, What happens if they try to take him? They won't, Adam said firmly. I won't let them. She nodded slowly, the gravity of the moment pressing down on her. Then he added softer, I've already lost one brother. I won't lose what's left of him. And for the first time in her entire adult life, Elena believed someone was truly willing to stand beside her, and not just in words. But in war, the DNA results came in 5 days later. Elena had tried to prepare herself, but the moment Adam called and said, It's here, her knees nearly gave out. She had been folding Leo's pajamas when the phone rang, and now she was clutching the soft fabric like a lifeline. Do you want me to bring it over? He asked. His voice was calm, but there was an undercurrent of tension, like a string pulled too tight. No, she said after a pause. I'll come to you. She didn't know why, but something told her this wasn't something she wanted to process alone in the tiny kitchen she fed Leo in, or the living room where they napped together during storms. She needed neutral ground, somewhere real, somewhere outside the weight of survival. Adam gave her the address, his place, a brownstone near the historic district, quiet and tucked between tall trees and well-kept fences. She'd never been there before. She arranged for Mrs. Hargrove to watch Leo again. Just a quick errand, she said, masking the worry behind a tired smile. The drive over was a blur. She kept both hands on the steering wheel, focusing on the road, on the headlights in front of her, on not letting her brain spiral. When Adam opened the door, he didn't say anything. He just stepped aside, letting her in. The house smelled like wood and coffee, like rain and something familiar she couldn't name. It was minimalist but warm, clean lines, earth tones, nothing extravagant. Lived in, grounded. He led her to the kitchen where a single envelope sat on the counter. White, thick. Her name and Leo's written in small block letters. Her breath caught. Adam didn't move to open it. He stepped back, giving her space, letting her choose. Elena reached for the envelope with steady hands she didn't feel belonged to her. She slid her finger under the seal and unfolded the paper inside. She scanned the page quickly, almost mechanically. Technical language, data points, numbers. and then she saw it. Probability of relatedness, 99.98%. She let the page fall to the counter. Her knees went weak, but she didn't collapse. She simply stood there staring at it. "He's Jason's," she whispered. Adam didn't respond. He didn't need to. She turned toward him. His face was unreadable for a moment. Then something in him cracked too, a mix of grief and something close to awe. "He's my brother's son," he said. "Your son is my family." She nodded, arms folding across her chest as the weight of it settled into her bones. It didn't feel like a win or a loss. It felt like a truth that had always existed, just now revealed. She looked at Adam. "What does this change?" she asked, voice low. "Nothing," he said. "And everything." Elena raised an eyebrow. "I don't want custody," he clarified quickly. "I'm not here to complicate your life. I know you've raised him, loved him, sacrificed for him. You're his mother. That's not even a question." "Then what?" Adam stepped closer. Not too close. His voice softened. "I want to be in his life. As his uncle. Maybe more if you'll let me. I want him to grow up knowing where he came from and that he's wanted, that he's not alone, that neither of you are." Her eyes welled, but she blinked the tears back. "And the people watching us? The threats?" Adam's jaw tightened. "They're already scared. That's why they're hiding behind notes and lawyers. But now we have something they don't." She tilted her head. "What?" He smiled, small but real. "Truth. And each other." They stood in silence for a long moment, letting the words linger. Then Elena stepped forward and laid her hand on the counter beside the letter. "He's going to ask questions one day," she said. "I don't want him to grow up with secrets." "He won't," Adam said. "I'll help you tell him. When the time is right." She looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time since this all began, she didn't see a stranger, or a rich man, or someone from a life far removed from hers. She saw Leo's future, and maybe part of her own. The official letter arrived 2 weeks later. Thick paper, a formal seal. Legal language threaded through every sentence. The Rayner Family Trust acknowledged the results of the DNA test. Quietly, privately. No press, no scandal, just a single page confirming that Leo Moore, age 3, was the biological son of Jason Rayner, and therefore a named beneficiary of the trust. It wasn't a fortune, not yet, but it meant security. A college education, health care, stability. It meant Leo would never go hungry. It meant Elena could breathe a little deeper, stand a little straighter. It didn't erase the years of struggle, the lonely nights, or the endless sacrifices, but it made the future feel less like a cliff's edge. Elena didn't tell many people. Not her co-workers, not even Mrs. Hargrove. It wasn't about proving anything. It was about protecting something that had taken her years to build. Herself, her son, her peace. Adam became a constant presence. Not loud, not overwhelming, just there. Sometimes he brought groceries. Sometimes he took Leo to the park and let him climb on the jungle gym while pretending not to worry about him falling. Sometimes he stayed after dinner, washing dishes, talking with Elena about ordinary things like movies and music, and the way life sometimes surprises you when you least expect it. One afternoon, Leo came into the kitchen with a crayon drawing of 3 stick figures, one taller, one with a dress, and one small with yellow hair and a big smile. Elena held it up. "Who's this?" "That's me," Leo said proudly, pointing to the smallest. "That's you, and that's Uncle Addie." Elena glanced at Adam. He looked stunned, soft, silently honored. They pinned the drawing to the fridge. That night, after Leo had fallen asleep on the couch with his head in Adam's lap, Elena made tea and sat across from him at the small kitchen table. She watched Adam stroke Leo's hair gently, rhythmically, like someone who was memorizing the feel of family. "You know," she said softly, "I used to believe that if something good ever found me, it wouldn't stay." Adam looked at her, his eyes calm. "Do you still believe that?" She shook her head. "No, not anymore." A silence fell between them, warm, unhurried. Then he said, "I've been offered a contract in London, a 2-year design residency. Huge project." Her chest tightened. "Are you taking it?" "I was," he said. "Before you. Before him." Elena swallowed. "Adam, this isn't a trap. You're allowed to live your life. I know, he said, but for the first time, I don't want to run towards something. I want to stay, build something slower, smaller, but real. Tears stung her eyes. She looked down at her hands. I'm not easy. You know that. My life, it's messy. Adam stood slowly, walked around the table, and knelt beside her. He reached for her hands, held them like they were something sacred. I don't want perfect, he said. I want this. You, Leo, the mess, all of it. She blinked away tears and whispered, You sure? I've never been more sure of anything. A week later, he moved into an apartment 2 blocks away. Not in her space, not pushing, but close, present, willing. Months passed. Leo started preschool. Elena began taking evening college classes. She hadn't dreamed that far ahead in years, but now she could picture things. A degree, a job she loved, a life that wasn't about just surviving. One Sunday, they all went to the beach. It was chilly and the wind whipped Leo's curls into his face as he ran laughing across the sand. Adam chased him, laughing harder, pretending to lose. Elena watched them from the edge of the blanket, heart full in a way she didn't know was possible. When they returned home, Leo fell asleep in the car. Adam carried him upstairs, tucked him in, then came back to the living room where Elena stood waiting. You know, she said, you never told me what made you stop that day, why you let me get in your car. Adam smiled. I don't know. Something in your face. You look like someone I used to know, or maybe someone I was meant to meet. She stepped closer, her voice quiet. Wrong car. He shook his head, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. No, he whispered. Right life. And in that moment, with her past finally behind her and her future standing right in front of her, Elena finally understood. Some mistakes aren't mistakes at all. They're just the road home. In my view, the ending of this story isn't just happy, it's earned. This isn't a fairy tale about a poor girl and a wealthy man. It's a story about two people who have been through loss, loneliness, and quiet heartbreak, yet never gave up on the idea that something better could still find them. Elena is strong, raw, and real. She never waited to be rescued. She fought for every step forward. That's what makes her choice to accept Adam not for his wealth, but for his heart so deeply moving. She doesn't fall into a fantasy. She chooses love with clear eyes and open hands. Adam, on the other hand, isn't perfect. He's carrying grief, guilt, and years of silence. But instead of running, he decides to stay. He steps into the mess of someone else's life not to fix it, but to share the weight of it. And that's what makes him a man worthy of trust. Together, they don't just find each other, they recognize each other. And that's what makes the ending so powerful. It's not a grand romantic gesture that defines them. It's the small, consistent choice to show up for a child, for each other, for the life they never thought they'd be allowed to live. It's not a perfect ending, it's a real one, and that makes it beautiful.